What really happened outside Earth's atmosphere when Alexei Leonov stepped into the void and nearly didn't make it back? On March 18, 1965, the Soviet Union stunned the world with a daring leap into the unknown, the first human spacewalk. The Voskhod 2 mission didn't just push boundaries, it obliterated them. But behind the triumphant headlines was a silent, invisible terror creeping through Leonov's suit, threatening to trap him outside the spacecraft forever. Pressure readings were rising. His limbs stiffened. The hatch loomed closed. And the world had no idea. Why did Soviet engineers risk such a high-stakes maneuver at a time when the technology was barely mature? What were the political pressures driving them, and how close did this mission come to becoming a deadly failure buried by silence? In this video, we'll explore the chilling minutes that almost cost a cosmonaut his life, the genius improvisation that turned disaster into success, and the legacy Voskhod 2 carved into the fabric of space history. This isn't just a story about space, it's a human story of pressure, risk, and raw ingenuity. And the question still lingers, could we have lost Leonov forever? The Voskhod 2 spacecraft wasn't just a machine, it was a tightrope walk over technological limitations and political urgency. Launched by the Soviet Union on March 18, 1965, Voskhod 2 was built on the frame of the earlier Vostok design but radically modified to support a two-person crew and enable humanity's first spacewalk. Cosmonauts Pavel Belyayev and Alexei Leonov squeezed into a cabin so small they couldn't turn around. The spacecraft was equipped with the inflatable Volga airlock, a bulging extension designed to allow Leonov to exit the capsule without depressurizing the cabin, a necessity for survival in vacuum. But this addition came at a cost: increased complexity, cramped conditions, and barely tested emergency protocols. Its guidance system was rudimentary, and after the main autopilot failed, Belyayev had to manually navigate re-entry, an almost unheard of feat at the time. The landing overshot its target by hundreds of kilometers, leaving the crew stranded in the Siberian wilderness surrounded by wolves. Yet despite its risks, Voskhod 2 became a symbol of human daring and Soviet innovation, pushing the envelope for future EVA, extravehicular activity, technology. It wasn't sleek. It wasn't spacious. But it got the job done, barely. The Voskhod 2 launch vehicle was a beast born of necessity, not finesse, and R-7 rocket stretched to its limits to make history happen. Based on the proven R-7 ICBM architecture, the Voskhod launch vehicle was a multi-stage rocket designed to ferry the modified Voskhod capsule and its bold EVA ambitions into orbit. It wasn't built from scratch but adapted from the Vostok launcher, with reinforced structures and upgraded systems to handle the heavier payload and the additional complexities of the inflatable Volga airlock. The rocket featured 4 strap-on boosters forming the first stage, igniting in unison and falling away in a symmetric ballet just minutes into flight. The second stage carried the spacecraft into low Earth orbit, powered by a single RD-108 engine, whose reliability had already served the Soviet program well. But this launch wasn't routine, it had the burden of prestige, risk, and propaganda riding every second of its ascent. Despite its utilitarian design, the vehicle performed flawlessly during launch, inserting Voskhod 2 into a 167 by 475 km orbit. Leonov's unprecedented exit into space would have never been possible without this towering blend of brute force and Soviet ingenuity. Not elegant, but effective. It wasn't just a walk, it was a delicate, desperate dance with physics, pressure, and the unknown. The spacewalk on Voskhod 2, history's first, was enabled by the inflatable Volga airlock, a brilliant workaround for the Voskhod capsule's design flaw: no internal transfer tunnel. Engineers crafted a collapsible chamber that extended outside the spacecraft. Before exiting, Alexei Leonov donned a Berkut suit pressurized to survive vacuum, then entered the Volga, sealed the hatch behind him, and depressurized the chamber. He floated into the void tethered to the capsule by a 5.35-meter umbilical cord carrying oxygen and communications. The spacewalk lasted just over 12 minutes, but it nearly ended in tragedy. Leonov's suit began to expand uncontrollably in vacuum, stiffening and preventing him from fitting back into the airlock. In a split-second decision, he deflated the suit manually, something never tested. He re-entered feet first in a narrow space with no visibility, soaked in sweat and dangerously overheated. Mission Control had no idea what he was facing. This wasn't just an engineering challenge, it was a human one. Every second outside that spacecraft rewrote the manual on EVA procedures. Voskhod 2 didn't just prove it could be done, it showed how close we can come to disaster when pushing the limits. Pavel Belyayev wasn't just the pilot of Voskhod 2, he was the calm hand on the throttle during one of space history's most precarious missions. A seasoned test pilot and decorated Soviet Air Force officer, Belyayev was chosen not just for his flight skills but for his grit. During Voskhod 2, while Leonov made his historic spacewalk, Belyayev remained inside the capsule, monitoring life support, communications, and the mission clock. But his true moment came during re-entry when the automatic guidance system failed. With Earth spinning below, Belyayev was forced to take manual control, performing a rare hand-flown descent using a tiny periscope and minimal instrumentation. The result, an off-course landing in deep Siberia. What followed was a survival tale. Belyayev helped Leonov out of the capsule, both men exhausted, freezing, and surrounded by thick forest and prowling wolves. He kept morale high during a 2-day wait for rescue, cutting wood, radioing for help, and transforming a near catastrophe into a testament to resilience and leadership. Though Leonov got the spotlight, Belyayev was the quiet anchor, the one who got them home. His performance under pressure solidified his legacy as a pilot's pilot and a cornerstone of Soviet space achievement. Alexei Leonov didn't just step into space, he stepped into legend. Born in Siberia and trained as an Air Force pilot, Leonov became one of the Soviet Union's top cosmonauts, but his defining moment came aboard Voskhod 2. On March 18, 1965, he became the first human to perform an extravehicular activity, EVA, floating freely outside the spacecraft. The risks were staggering, no one knew what prolonged exposure to vacuum might do. Leonov suited up in the bulky Berkut spacesuit, crawled through the inflatable Volga airlock, and drifted into the void tethered only by a lifeline. What followed was nearly fatal. His suit ballooned uncontrollably in the vacuum, stiffening so much he couldn't re-enter the airlock. With minutes to spare and no margin for error, Leonov vented air from his suit to reduce pressure, a move so dangerous it had never been approved or tested. He climbed back in drenched in sweat, heart pounding, barely able to breathe. Yet what made Leonov extraordinary wasn't just courage, it was his calm, quick thinking under conditions no simulator could replicate. He later became an artist, a general, and a respected voice in space diplomacy. But it all began with 12 minutes that redefined humanity's reach and could have ended in silence. Once in orbit, Voskhod 2 became the stage for a groundbreaking human achievement, the first spacewalk. The spacecraft orbited Earth at an altitude of about 495 kilometers, carrying cosmonauts Pavel Belyayev and Alexei Leonov. Inside the cramped capsule, they prepared to open the inflatable airlock, a unique addition that allowed Leonov to exit into the vacuum of space. While in orbit, they captured stunning views of Earth and tested how humans could work outside a spacecraft. The Voskhod 2 spacewalk on March 18, 1965, was a defining moment in human space exploration. Cosmonaut Alexei Leonov became the first person to step outside a spacecraft and float freely in the vastness of space. Exiting through an inflatable airlock, Leonov spent about 12 minutes outside, tethered by a 5.35-meter cord. He marveled at the breathtaking sight of Earth below and the silence of the cosmos around him. However, the mission wasn't without problems. Leonov's suit ballooned in the vacuum, making it almost impossible for him to re-enter the airlock. He had to partially deflate it, risking his safety to squeeze back inside. Despite this near disaster, the mission proved that humans could survive and work outside a spacecraft.
I congratulate you all on the fulfillment of the first part of the program. The beginning of the second portion of this space epoch. The flight proceeds, orbit after orbit, hour by hour. New observations and Leonov's first drawings in space and recordings in the logbook about impressions. The flight has been in progress 24 hours. The program is fulfilled and it's time to return to Earth. The landing of a space vehicle is an extremely complicated and responsible stage of the flight. All landing operations of previous spaceships had proceeded without a hitch. And now...
Алмаз, я заряден, на связь. Алмаз, я заряден, на связь.
30 reporting. No response to third command. A malfunction of solar orientation. No response to the third command. 30 seconds later came the following order from the center. Permission given for manual descent using retro power plant. Don't hurry to switch in retro power plant. Be attentive and careful. A manual landing on the 17th circuit. Excitement was high as we all waited. For the first time, Pavel Belyayev had to land a spaceship manually, as if it were a plane. On the 17th circuit, Pavel Belyayev took all control into his own hands. They know that since the speed is tremendous, the slightest error will change the point of impact by scores of kilometers. A piloting mistake can send the ship off to an unknown destination. Belyayev displayed great courage and skill in handling the ship. Home at last, back on Earth. The search party found the astronauts north of Earth. The first eager questions. What did you see up there? How was it? What did it feel like soaring in space? And there certainly was a lot for Alexei Leonov to tell about the first 20 minutes spent in space, and for Pavel Belyayev to tell about the first manual landing of a spaceship. The first autographs, but many more will come later.
Voskhod 2 was one of the most daring and technically challenging missions of the early space age. Launched by the Soviet Union on March 18, 1965, its primary goal was to perform the first-ever spacewalk, proving that a human could exit a spacecraft, work in the vacuum of space, and safely return. This mission pushed the boundaries of engineering and human endurance. Cosmonaut Alexei Leonov was chosen to step outside, tethered to the capsule by a lifeline. However, the mission faced serious problems that highlighted how untested spacewalking really was. Leonov's spacesuit ballooned in the vacuum of space, making it nearly impossible for him to maneuver and re-enter the airlock. He had to bleed air from his suit to squeeze back inside, a dangerous improvisation that could have cost him his life. Inside the Voskhod 2 capsule, other issues arose. The spacecraft's automatic re-entry system failed, forcing the crew to manually orient the capsule for descent, which was extremely risky with the limited equipment on board. Despite these challenges, Voskhod 2 achieved remarkable accomplishments. Leonov's 12-minute spacewalk proved the feasibility of extravehicular activity, EVA, and paved the way for future space construction, repairs, and exploration outside the confines of a spacecraft. The mission demonstrated the Soviet Union's technical prowess at the time, expanding the possibilities of human spaceflight. Although Voskhod 2 highlighted major safety gaps, the bravery and quick thinking of Leonov and his crewmate, Pavel Belyayev, turned potential disaster into historic triumph. Their experience shaped future EVA procedures, suit designs, and mission planning for both Soviet and American programs in the years that followed. In the end, Voskhod 2 wasn't just a mission, it was a bold step into the unknown that forever changed space exploration. Despite facing life-threatening problems, Alexei Leonov's historic spacewalk proved humans could survive and work outside a spacecraft, opening the door for moon landings, satellite repairs, and building space stations. The courage and quick thinking of Leonov and Belyayev turned near disaster into an unforgettable triumph. Voskhod 2 reminds us that progress often comes with risk, but it's the willingness to push beyond fear that truly expands our reach among the stars.